Welcome to the Pocket. My name is Scooter, here to give you my Week 7 preview of the Giants' home matchup versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And in today's video, I'm going to give you an injury report, a recap of each team's record, how they got to where they are now, the key players and keys to victory, and what I think is going to happen and why. Now, before we get into all of that, let me address the elephant in the room. Normally, right about here, you would see a specific jersey hanging up there. It's actually signed. I got it right here, and you can see the signature right there. What number? 26? Is that Devin Singletary? No. I got this jersey signed a few years ago when I met Mr. Saquon Barkley, my favorite Giant at the time. Of course, after Odell Beckham left, he was the star and face of the team. You had Daniel Jones coming in, but we knew Saquon was the heart and soul. Now, Saquon this offseason was in a contract negotiation with the Giants. They couldn't work things out. The Giants had other needs. So we essentially parted ways. We saw a lot of that on Hard Knocks. That's all fine and dandy. We didn't give him the amount of money he wanted, so that's okay. But what team did he choose to go to? Our rival, Philadelphia Eagles, who we play this week. Saquon is returning to MetLife for the first time since last season. And I'm anticipating some boos and a lot of hatred towards Saquon Barkley. I, too, am quite bitter about the team he decided to go play for. Now, I did kind of anticipate this during the offseason, knowing he's a PA kid. He went to high school there. He probably grew up an Eagles fan, most likely. And a lot of people were really upset when that happened, when he decided to go there. But I'm not wishing any injury on him or anything like that. I'm not someone like that. He helped us for years, and I truly do believe he gave it his all and played through injuries for years for the Giants and gave us a chance to win pretty much any game we were in that we weren't getting completely blown out of. He was our whole offense. Now, with that being said, as a person, I respect his decision, for his family and everything. But as a football player, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. Going to a rival team, I mean, it's a slap in the face to the whole franchise. Talking about wanting to be like a Giants legend and all that. He would have had a chance to still, get all those accolades from the Giants if he just went to some other team or some AFC team. But he pretty much blew it if that was something he genuinely wanted. So I'm not wishing for injury, but if he gets tackled for loss or he gets hit hard and he's got to come out the game for a snap or two, I might have a little smile on my face just to let him know what he's missing out on, right? The Giants, because that's definitely a better option than the Eagles. Now, hey, I do think the Giants have a chance in this game, and the Eagles definitely have a better future than we do. But I think, there's a lot of glitters, but it might not be gold going to Philadelphia like he thought it was. So, without further ado, with all that being said about Saquon Barkley, let's move on to the whole rest of the team of the Giants and the Eagles, starting with the injury report. Now, for the Giants, we know Andrew Thomas and Kayvon Thibodeau are both on the IR. Andrew Thomas, I haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. Why can't we have nice things? Let me say it again. We were just getting Malik Nabers back. Andrew Thomas gets an MRI on his foot after last week's game, and it turns out he needs surgery on his foot. He's out for the season. Normally, I would say the season's over, right? He's our most important player on offense, him or Malik Nabers. But out of the 5 guys we have this year, I think if there was ever a year that we were to play without Andrew Thomas, it would be this year. The rest of the unit has been playing pretty well. We have a new coach, and Josh Iswedu or Evan Neal will be stepping in or rotating at that left tackle spot to fill in for him. We've known about Kayvon Thibodeau and his wrist surgery. He's out. And then our punter, Jamie Gilliam, he's out with the hammy again. And Adoree Jackson is out with a neck injury. So we're missing a starting corner, a punter, our number 2 edge rusher, and our left tackle. So that is not great. But thankfully, on the questionable end of things, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Dane Belton all look like they're going to play. Burns nursing a groin injury. It seemed like more of a veteran rest thing. Same with Dexter Lawrence and his hip. Dane Belton had an illness Hopefully he's feeling better by the time the game rolls around because, we like to get him back there at safety. And that's it for the Giants. So it looks like we're going to be missing 4 key players: a punter, a corner, an edge, and a left tackle. I would say the biggest hit probably to the offense with Thomas being out at left tackle. But let's move on to the Eagles injury report. On IR, Jordan Mailata, their left tackle, is out with a hammy. So you could sort of say that maybe that cancels out, right? They're missing their starting left tackle too. Now he's not their best tackle. Lane Johnson would be that. But he is a quality left tackle that has improved lots over the years and proven to be, quite the player who has helped them. He's physical in the run game and can lock down a pass rusher such as, say, Kayvon Thibodeau or Azeez Ojulari. Maybe not Burns, but you know we'll never know unless if he plays in the last game of the season, which I believe he will. Now, out for the Eagles is Dallas Goedert, their tight end. He's got a hammy. Eli Ricks, their corner, he's got a groin injury. He's like their 4th or 5th string, I believe. And then Byron Young, their defensive tackle, he's got a hammy as well. He's not a starter either, but this Philadelphia Eagles team has a lot of depth, and they rely on that and rotating guys. So that could be viewed as a slight downgrade for their interior defensive line. And then questionable is Darius Slay with a knee. So they're going to be missing their starting tight end, a starting corner, well, not a starting corner, a backup corner, a backup defensive tackle, and their left tackle. So it seems to me like the injuries, the amount of impact that it's going to have on each team seems pretty equal. Not something that I'm really going to, use as an excuse if one team wins or loses. So, but that's that. Now you know. Now recapping the record of the Giants, we're 2-4. We have a win against the Browns and the Seahawks, 2 teams that are struggling more and more recently. And then we have a loss against the Cowboys, the Bengals, the Commanders, and the Vikings. All pretty good teams. And outside of the Vikings game, it's been within 2 points, 5 points. Bengals game was within 3 points until that last drive. So we've been in every single game except, once again, that Vikings game. I know I keep saying that. But we've been pretty competitive. We've suffered some injuries. So have the Eagles. But against the Seahawks and the Bengals, we did not have Malik Nabers. So pulling out at least one win there is actually not bad in my opinion. So, starting 1-3 is not ideal, but I'd say the 3 teams we lost to are at least looking to make the playoffs and staying competitive with 2 of them. It's a decent showing, but obviously the Giants have a lot to work on. But this is a week where getting Malik Nabers back, looking to be more dynamic on offense and put up some more points, which has been the problem last week and some of the other losses. Now for the Eagles, they started off pretty hot with a win in Brazil against the Packers, a team that I'm quite high on. Now, that was, a lot of people saying it was a weird game. People were slipping, weird field and atmosphere, but a win is a win. And then they had that choking loss against the Falcons. I was watching that live. That made me super happy just watching that happen. I do not like the Eagles. It's been like that ever since they made the Super Bowl. I was, calling out how I don't really believe in their success or that they've proven that much. But anyway, let's move on. They got a win versus Saints. That was a close one. Now this is very important. The Saints were 2-0 and looking really, really hot, but they suffered injuries. I can't remember if it was before or during this game to their interior offensive line, and they have not been the same since. So I'm not saying it wasn't good for them to get a win against the Saints, but this don't get it twisted. This was not the best version of the Saints. Their Saints defense did a really good job containing the Eagles offense, and but the Eagles defense was able to capitalize on the injuries the Saints had. Now into the Bucs game, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson all out. They get destroyed by the Bucs. Very unfortunate for them, but you can kind of see it coming. Jalen Hurts is very much as good as his cast and his surrounding cast, how much they can help him and give him opportunity. They have a bye week, and then they go on to beat the Browns in a very similar score. I believe it was like 20-16 or 20-14 or something like that. I don't have the exact score in front of me, but it was pretty comparable to the Giants game. So something I want to point out, given all this information, is we've seen the that Hurts struggles without A.J. Brown, and now he's back. But I don't ever remember seeing him play without Jordan Mailata. So if this Giants pass rush can really expose that, Hurts does not have great pocket presence, and he's not great against the blitz. Bowen has chosen very carefully in what games he wants to blitz, what quarterbacks he wants to blitz. He did not do it much against Joe Burrow. We rushed mostly 4 and left everyone in coverage. So I'm really curious to see how that pans out. And I'm really curious to see how the Eagles secondary is going to plan on containing Malik Nabers. You know, Brian Dable has got a play to hit Malik Nabers in every spot of the field. No matter what coverage they're running, he's going to have a plan of how to get him the ball. And I'm really curious to see how the Eagles handle that. So moving on, we're going to talk about key players. For the Giants, Drew Phillips, our nickel corner. Why? Because it's not just linebacker blitzes or anything like that that really gets to this Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts. It's nickel blitzes. These fast nickel blitzes that rush in and they get in super fast, kind of hard to detect whether or not they're coming. And they get a quick sack. Flashbacks to the Chiefs game from last year. Trent McDuffie, one of the best in the game at blitzing from the nickel position. And I think he had like 2 sacks in that game and maybe like 1 or 2 quarterback hits. So if we can do that with Drew Phillips and maybe only rush 5, right, our 4, and then just Drew Phillips, I think that's a really good, option in terms of attacking this Eagles offense and putting Hurts under pressure. Up next is, I'm not sure who is starting yet. I believe it's Josh Ezeudu at left tackle, but it could be Evan Neal. So just our backup left tackle. How are they going to handle this Eagles pass rush that hasn't been very good, especially on the edges? Their interior is a little better with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. We'll talk about later. But this left tackle position, this is something that haunted us about Andrew Thomas being injured, is are they going to expose our offensive line? But I think we're deeper this year. Josh Ezeudu didn't play too bad last year. Evan Neal, he's had some time to sit back. Maybe he's absorbed some confidence under Carmen Brasillo's coaching. So you never really know. This might actually not be as tragic of a loss as we initially thought. And then John Michael Schmitz, our center, has a very tough matchup against the athletic monster in Jalen Carter, who's my first Eagles key player. This just straight up head-to-head matchup. I'm sure we're going to get some double teams on him in pass protection, but then you're going to leave Neal or Ezeudu one-on-one in coverage. So there's probably, or not one-on-one in coverage, one-on-one with their pass rusher. So this matchup with JMS and Jalen Carter is going to be key. Are we going to double him the whole game? Are we going to send a running back in to kind of chip up the middle? What are we going to do about that? Because he's played pretty decent so far this year, but he's not the athlete that Jalen Carter is. And if we don't manage him properly, he's going to Dexter Lawrence our offense. Up next for the Eagles is Fred Johnson, their backup left tackle. Now, I think this might be more of a problem for the Eagles than it is for the Giants, this backup left tackle situation, because the Eagles' defensive line, especially at the edges, has not been very good this year. And the Giants' pass rush at the defensive end positions and interior has been good. So I think we might have more of an opportunity to expose Fred Johnson with either Burns or Azeez, who I think definitely can once again have a good game if they just leave him one-on-one with Fred Johnson and let Burns go to work on Lane Johnson and Lane Johnson and Fred Johnson. I didn't realize that. Had me mixed up for a second there. But yeah, this Giants pass rush is going to hope to capitalize on Fred Johnson. But the last piece of this puzzle right here, you notice a lot of this is talking about in the trenches and how we're going to blitz the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, no, not running the ball, not catching the ball out of the backfield. They are going to leave him in for as much of the game as possible, and that means he's going to have to pick up these nickel blitzes from Drew Phillips. So they're essentially in a head-to-head matchup as well, because I'm telling you, we're going to send at least 2 or 3 nickel blitzes, and they're probably all going to be Drew Phillips or Jason Pinnock or whoever it may be. But Saquon Barkley's ability to pick up these blitzes or get out as an outlet to be a check down for Jalen Hurts, which he doesn't do that much, is going to be key. So, like I said, Drew Phillips versus Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter versus JMS, and then Fred Johnson versus the Giants pass rush, and our backup, whether it be Evan Neal or Josh Ezeudu versus the Eagles pass rush. Now, our keys to victory. As I kind of alluded to before, taking advantage of Mailata being out and getting some blitzes to confuse Jalen Hurts and stunt this offense is going to be key. Part of what we're going to have to do to contain this offense is also containing A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, their excellent wide receiver duo. Now, we versed one last week and did an excellent job containing it by bracketing essentially both of them and daring them to beat us with their slot receiver or tight end or running backs. Because you're running too high looks, you have light boxes, lots of the underneath stuff or the run game should be there. So doing that while being able to contain the run game with our light boxes is going to be key. We've got to keep them in third and long. They are not good when it's, say, 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6, right? Because you can't just run it up the middle and then push it like you would on, say, 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 2. So keeping them behind the sticks is going to be key for the Giants to win this game. Now, finally, what do I think is going to happen? I think this is going to be a one-possession game pretty much throughout the entire game. There might be a point in time where someone gets a 10-point lead. It'll probably be early on, and then things will start to get a little bit closer as the game gets into the second and third quarter. I do think, based off of what I just said, that there will be at least 3 lead changes. I think there's a good chance the Giants take the lead early on in this game because the Eagles have started very slow in every game this year. They're one of the worst first quarter teams in the league. And I think the Giants will, say, take the lead. The Eagles figure it out near the end of the second quarter, and they either tie it up or take the lead going into half. And then one more lead change, and then, the game ends with whoever the winner is. So I think that's going to be key. I looked up the penalties because I remember the Giants playing quite clean the past few weeks, and we have the 6th least penalty yards given up and are tied for 3rd least penalties called. Now, the Eagles have 3 more penalties called than us on the year, but have allowed 1 less yard. So both teams have actually been pretty clean when it comes to avoiding penalties. So whoever plays the messier game in terms of that might be a deciding factor. So as for my pick for this game, I actually think the Giants are going to win this game. I think we're going to catch them off guard. I think they're going to overestimate how much this Andrew Thomas injury is going to hurt us because we do have offensive line depth this year and we do have a better coach. And I think they're going to be surprised with how we control the trenches, running the ball, our defensive line against their offensive line that's banged up right now. I think we're going to catch them off guard. And as I alluded to, we might take a lead early on. I think the Giants are going to get 5+ sacks, 2 of which coming from nickel blitzes. Now, it might not be Drew Phillips twice. It might be Drew Phillips and Jason Pinnock. But I am pretty confident that Drew Phillips will end up with a sack by the end of this game. And 5 sacks, that's quite a bit. So that's going to stall the Eagles offense. Like I said, it's going to keep them in 3rd and long or, shut them down on 3rd down, not allow them time to get shots off to A.J. Brown. And it's going to be key. Now, Saquon Barkley, I think he's going to have over 100 scrimmage yards. They're going to run this offense through him for running these light boxes, and we're not allowing them to beat us deep. They're going to run the ball, and he's going to have holes to go through. This Eagles offensive line is still good, especially at run blocking. So I think he will get them down the field, but I think we're going to, once the field compresses, right, if you're running too high and bracketing them both, it's not as much of a problem because you're not covering 40 yards of space. You're covering 20 yards of space. You're not going to get beat deep bracketing A.J. Brown and not be able to contain the run when the field is compressed. So I think the Eagles are going to have a little bit of trouble scoring in the red zone. And essentially what I'm saying is whoever dominates the trenches, I do think will win. I think the Giants' defensive line versus the Eagles' injured offensive line is much more of a mismatch than the Giants' offensive line missing Thomas versus their defensive line. Now, could Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis completely blow up that take? Absolutely. But I do think Carmen Bracillo is going to be prepared to handle this Eagles pass rush, and the Giants will come out with a win 21-18. That would be Giants plus 3.5. And the under, which is at 43. So I have a 39-point total there. Thank you all so much for watching. If you think I'm an idiot for picking the Giants to win this game, leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think the score is going to be. And who do you think is a different key player that I didn't mention in this game? I mentioned Drew Phillips. I mentioned the Giants' backup left tackle, whether it's Josh Oswedu or Evan Neal. The Eagles' backup left tackle, Fred Johnson. Jalen Carter versus JMS. Saquon Barkley, as I said, going up against Drew Phillips. And then, yes, I did mention Jalen Carter. So, is there anyone I missed that you think is going to have a key impact in this game? And if the Eagles end up losing this game, do you think they're going to fire Nick Sirianni? Man, I would love to be the catalyst that gets Nick Sirianni fired. No hatred towards like the man in reality. You know, obviously it stinks when you get fired and stuff. It sucks for the family and all that. But I'm personally not a fan of the way he carries himself and the way he acts in games and talks about the Giants. So if we can be the ones to, you know, cause his downfall and get him out of there, then it's just going to bring a little smile to my face. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like, put your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you aren't already. Peace out.